Welcome to the Prepper Almanac. Many preppers are eager to start stockpiling food, but they often make the mistake of just running to the store and buying whatever they can find. It's important to take the time to learn about the different types of food storage and to choose foods that will be safe to eat for months or even years. This guide will teach you everything you need to know about food storage for preppers. We'll cover the basics of food storage, such as how to choose the right foods and how to store them properly. We'll also discuss some of the most common food storage methods and how to avoid mistakes that could put your food supply at risk. And we'll put links to some of the products in the description of the video if you want to explore some yourself. Topic number 1: Where to store your food. Before you start buying food, you need to consider where you will put it. This will have a big effect on how much you're able to store. Here are some features to look for in a food storage space. Airy, good ventilation. Temperature controlled, needs to be below 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 70 degrees or lower will make your food last a lot longer. Dry, that means no moisture, no standing water or dripping water. You probably already have some locations in mind. If not, here's a list of places that could make suitable food storage areas. Basement. Spare bedroom. Closet. Pantry. Topic number 2: Storing food in limited space. One of the most crucial food storage skills of all is knowing how to store a lot of food in a limited amount of space. Fortunately, there are a variety of important tips that you can use to make the most out of limited space, including shelves under the stairwell. Do you have any space under the stairwell? Don't let it go to waste. Normal food storage rules apply, so make sure the space is free of moisture and kept at a normal room temperature. Shelves in your closet. If you have any extra space in your closet, you can take advantage of it. Check out some cool shelving options in the description below the video. Topic number 3: Where to hide your food. You don't want your food stockpile sitting out in the open for everyone to see. Your food stockpile should be kept out of sight and only discussed with your immediate family. Your friend at work or neighbor next door doesn't need to hear about all the food you're storing. Remember, if nothing will stop you from providing for your family, nothing will stop them either. However, there is the possibility of extreme situations where looters or even government agents ransack your home in search of food. In case this happens, you should consider keeping some extra emergency food in unusual locations. For example, inside lamps, behind the walls, inside your box spring. Topic number 4: Where not to store your food. Although you want your food stockpile out of sight, you don't want to put it just anywhere. There are several places you should avoid storing your food simply because the temperature and humidity levels can't be controlled. For example, garages. These are okay if you live in a mild climate and the garage will not freeze or exceed 80 degrees. Laundry room, bathrooms, these are not good places because of the humidity. Attics, these tend to get way too hot in the summer. Hot temperatures and humidity can cut the shelf life of your food in half or worse depending on how long you leave the food in those conditions. If possible, you should have shelves in your storage space. Metal shelves are the best and most durable, and they're easier to clean if a jar breaks or something leaks. They will hold up fairly well under the weight of canned foods. Shelves are important to have because they make it easier to rotate your food. From now on, whenever you go shopping, most of what you buy should go straight to the back of your food storage shelves, and the stuff in front should be pulled out to use for the coming week's meals. Topic number 5: Start small. Don't compare your food cache to that of your friend who has been prepping for years. That's like comparing yourself to a marathon runner the day you start a jogging regimen. To help yourself stick with it, you should set goals. 3 days. This is the recommended amount of food and water you should always have on hand according to the federal government. The average household already has this much food. If a disaster happens, remember that the food in the fridge should be eaten first, which means you can save your pantry food for the following day. 3 weeks. Now you want to take that 3-day food supply and build on it. Figure out how much food your family eats on a typical day, multiply that number by 21. And you will know how much you need. Just build up your food storage at an even pace. When you go grocery shopping, buy extra of anything that doesn't have to be refrigerated. Keep doing these things until you have 3 weeks of food, and don't forget to rotate. 3 months. Storage. This is where you are getting into the long-term food storage items that are best purchased in bulk. Things like beans, rice, pasta, sugar, flour, and so forth. This is the stage where you'll want to learn how to cook from scratch. I know some people think cooking from scratch is a pain in the butt, but you'll save a lot of money that way. 6 months. Your food supply should be double the last checkpoint with a variety of foods and snacks to keep your family healthy and happy. Again, be careful about relying too much on canned foods and boxed meals. If that's all you have to eat, then your sodium levels will be through the roof, which is hard on your health, especially if you're middle-aged or older. 1 year. This is generally the goal for most preppers, and it might take several years to get there, but it is very doable if you're patient and persistent. But once you get to this point, don't stop prepping. You should continue rotating through your food supply and improving on it. The longer you maintain a year's supply of food, the better it will get. Topic number 6: What to store. Now it's time to get a little more specific. So what food should you store exactly? The short answer is, whatever your family eats. Never store food your family hates or food your family hasn't tried, no matter how great of a deal it is. You might be thinking, if we're hungry, we'll eat anything, so who cares? While this is true, you still want to focus on foods that everyone will enjoy. During a long-term disaster, it's important to do everything you can to keep up morale, and disgusting foods that no one likes will only make that more difficult. Following is a list of foods with a long shelf life, a year or longer. White rice. Brown rice may be healthier, but it doesn't store nearly as long. Dried beans, pinto, kidney, white, and whatever your family likes. Steel-cut oats, oatmeal. Canned fruit and canned vegetables. Canned meat, tuna, spam, chicken, etc. Baking ingredients, baking soda, shortening, sugar, etc. White flour. There are many other types of flour, but they don't last as long. Wheat berries can be ground into flour. Variety of spices and seasonings. Your meals will be very boring without them. Dried meat, beef jerky, chicken meat bites, etc. Pasta, spaghetti noodles, macaroni noodles, etc. Tomato sauce. Instant potatoes. Peanut butter, jams, and jellies. Granola and granola bars. Canned foods, soup, chili, SpaghettiOs, etc. Coffee and tea. Condiments, ketchup, mustard, hot sauce, barbecue sauce, etc. Gravy packages. Gravy makes everything taste better. Vinegar, white and apple cider. There are many other long-lasting foods, but this list is just to get the gears in your head turning. If your family has a particular staple they just can't live without, add plenty of it to your food storage. Some kids and even adults have a particular snack they absolutely love. Make sure you have plenty of those things, too, as long as it's a food that will last a long time, such as candy. Check out the food options we found in the description of the video below. Topic number 7: Foods that are tough to store. There are some foods that simply don't store on a shelf in the pantry very well. You'll need to either stop eating these foods or find a suitable alternative. Graham crackers, saltines or soup crackers only last a couple of months before they go stale. You may think you can still eat stale crackers, but it isn't pleasant. Vegetable oil will go rancid after more than a year. You can go with lard or coconut oil. These can still go rancid, but will give you an extra year or so of shelf life. Salad dressing like ranch isn't going to do well on a shelf for a few years. Kids tend to want ranch on everything. You would be better off storing dry ranch mix that you can whip into dressing once you learn how to make mayonnaise, which leads us to the next item on the list. Mayonnaise is a staple in many households, but once you open that jar, it needs to be eaten quickly, unless you're able to power a small fridge. If you have to have mayo, buy small jars that you can get through quickly before the good stuff spoils. Most dried fruit only lasts 6 months to a year. Not that you shouldn't store it, you should. But you'll need to quickly rotate through it. Nuts, as with dried fruit, need to be rotated every half year to a year. They're a great source of fat and protein, but keep an eye on the expiration dates. Maple syrup, especially the cheap stuff, is going to mold after being open for some time. Learn how to make your own with a little sugar and maple flavoring. Dairy products are not going to sit on a shelf for months. Things like milk, butter, eggs, and cheese need refrigeration. And even then, the shelf lives are limited. Topic number 8: Freeze-dried food and why it is a big deal. If you went through that first list and were a little surprised not to see freeze-dried anything, there is a reason for that. Freeze-dried foods deserve their own special section. They are foods that you can only buy commercially packaged. So how are freeze-dried foods different from other dried foods? Basically, they are flash frozen. This process allows the food to retain more nutritional value than the canning or drying process. It also keeps the food pretty close to its original look and flavor once it has been reconstituted with a little water. In fact, it takes less water to bring a freeze-dried food back to its original appearance than it does dehydrated foods. The only drawback to freeze-dried food is the cost. This tends to be a deciding factor for many preppers. If you can only afford to add a few freeze-dried items to your food storage, start with the following items since there aren't many other ways to store them long-term. Cheese powder, life will be better with cheese. Milk, butter, and scrambled eggs. Pilot crackers, these will still taste great after years, unlike saltines. There are a ton of freeze-dried meals, like beef stroganoff or chicken teriyaki, that come in cans or pouches. Mountain House even makes emergency food buckets that come with a variety of meals. If you do buy freeze-dried food, keep in mind the servings per can are based on a calorie-specific diet. The servings are probably going to be significantly smaller than your average meal today. If you know you have some big eaters, plan accordingly and don't assume a can that says 40 servings will really amount to that much. Topic number 9. What about MREs? Personally, I don't recommend buying many of them, and for 3 reasons. 1. They don't taste good. There's a reason some people call them meals rejected by Ethiopia. 2. They're very expensive. I'm talking about $10 per 1,000 calories. It's just not worth it. 3. They're not healthy. Processed foods high in sodium, preservatives, and carbohydrates. As you can see, MREs aren't something you want to spend a lot of money on. You could buy a few of them to put in your bug-out bag, but that's all. We have found a few cheap MRE options that we put in the description of the video. Topic number 10. Food storage tips. There are several tricks that will make your food storage a success. If you are going to store flour, put it in the freezer for a few days before you seal it up and add it to your food storage. The freezer temps will kill off weevil eggs so you won't have to worry about them hatching and hanging out on your flour while it sits on the shelf. Use Mylar bags. Yes, they do cost a little money, but they can extend the storage life of your food by years, even decades. Get at least a couple sizes, such as 1-gallon Mylar bags and 5-gallon Mylar bags. There are other sizes, but these 2 should be all you need. We found some cool Mylar options that you can check out in the description of the video below. Don't forget to buy oxygen absorbers to get rid of as much oxygen left in the bag as you can. You'll need 300 cc absorbers for your 1-gallon bags. 1 per bag is usually enough, but I use 2 if it's pasta or beans, which have more air in them, and 2000 cc absorbers for your 5-gallon bags. Again, use 2 if it's pasta or beans. Place your hot iron sealed Mylar bags into a 5-gallon storage bucket with a lid to protect them from bugs and rodents. This also gives them another layer of protection against flooding. Add bay leaves to buckets of rice, flour, and beans. This is especially important if you are not using Mylar bags. The bay leaves stink far too much for ants and other pests and they will stay away. Label everything with a big black marker. You want to put the date on things so you'll know when you added them to your food storage. If you are using Mylar bags, you can buy labels to stick on each bag. This is very helpful and prevents you from breaking the seal to see what is inside. Label the buckets as well. I personally use masking tape to make labels because it's cheap and easy to remove. Keep a running inventory, whether it's an app on your phone or a paper notebook. If you're storing months' worth of food, you're going to forget what you have. But with an inventory, you'll be able to head to the store and know exactly what to get. Keep similar foods together. Canned fruit goes in one section and canned veggies in another. This will make it easy for you to find exactly what you want without having to shuffle things around and mess up your rotation. In addition to learning these food storage tips, you also need to learn these food storage mistakes. Topic number 11. Food storage mistakes. Here are the primary food storage mistakes you'll want to avoid. Storing food outside of Mylar bags or food-grade containers. Not including desiccant packs in your food containers. Not labeling the date you stored the food in your containers. Storing food outside or in sheds. Storing food in rooms where moisture is more likely to accumulate, such as attics, bathrooms, or utility rooms. Not rotating your food as needed. Storing foods you don't like or are not likely to eat. Leaving canning rings on your canned foods. Not thoroughly drying your food before storage. Failing to properly seal your Mylar bags with heat. Storing your older food in the back. You should store older food up front so you eat it first. Storing all of your food in the same location. Failing to include condiments or spices, you'll want these later to help boost flavor. Topic number 12. Preserving your own. If you are getting a little panicked at the thought of buying a lot of food that you won't be serving to your family right away, try to relax. Prepping doesn't mean you have to live on ramen noodles while you stash away all of the good stuff. Just look for ways to save money elsewhere and do what you can. You should also consider starting a garden and preserving whatever food it produces. There are 2 main methods of home food preservation: canning and dehydrating. Topic number 13. Canning. Canning is an excellent way to preserve everything from fruits and veggies to your favorite soups and stews. It's possible to can most of the things you serve your family in a typical month. There are literally hundreds of canning and preserving recipes out there. There is something really satisfying about canning food for your family to eat. To can food at home, you will need some basic supplies. Expect to pay about $200 for the initial investment. It will pay for itself very quickly. The following list includes the things you will want to start looking for. In addition, we have some links in the description below about some canning materials. Investing in a canning guide that provides you with all the important details as well as recipes is a very good idea. Here are some things to look for. Pressure canner. Jars, quart or pint. Lids and bands, wide mouth and regular. Only buy new lids. Never ever reuse lids. Jar lifter. Canning rack, optional but a nice tool for water bath canning. Jar funnel. Canning salt. You can get several of these as part of a home canning kit. The pressure canner is going to be your biggest investment. Expect to pay anywhere from $50 to $100. They can be expensive, but they're absolutely essential for safe canning. You can get away with using a water bath canner for some fruits, but nothing else. A water bath canner is basically a large pot. The fruits, jams, and jellies are boiled for 10 minutes in the jars and then they are safe to put on the shelf. Fruits are high in acid, which kills off the bacteria. Home canning is fairly straightforward. It generally involves picking fresh produce when the fruit is ripe and juicy and when the veggies are crisp. The produce is thoroughly washed before the blooms are cut away, and a blanching process is used for veggies to stop bacteria growth. Blanching is where you boil the vegetables in water for a few minutes before dunking them in an ice bath for the same amount of time. Anything else you prepare at home, like chili, soup, or even meat can be put into a glass jar and processed in your pressure canner. Topic number 14: Dehydrating. Dehydrating foods is another great option. The process removes moisture from the food to keep it from growing bacteria. Dehydrating is a method that has been around for centuries, but it is much easier and safer for us nowadays with the benefit of electric dehydrators. Fruits, veggies, meats and spices can all be dried and safely stored on the shelf for years. There are hundreds of dehydrating recipes to try. A good dehydrator will run you at least $60. A high-end dehydrator could cost as much as $250. To dehydrate your food, you will need to wash and dry it thoroughly before slicing it into very thin strips. Thin strips of fruit and meat will dry quickly and you won't have to worry too much about them turning chewy and tough to eat. However, with a thin strip, you run the risk of the food becoming crunchy and falling apart when handled. Dehydrating food is something that takes practice, so you might want to consider getting a dehydrator cookbook to help you along the way. When food is dehydrated, it does tend to lose some of its flavoring as well as nutritional value. There are a ton of different seasoning mixtures and marinades you can use on meat to give them additional flavor. Topic number 15: Smoking. Smoking meat is another ancient preservation method. It is essentially drying, but it is done over wood chips that give the meat additional flavor. When smoking is used to preserve meat so that it doesn't need refrigeration, it is referred to as hard smoking. Your goal is to store meats and other food without the need for your big freezer. Topic number 16: Root cellars. It would be a very wise decision to build or dig a root cellar on your property if you can. This is an excellent way to store fresh produce for months. Root cellars keep the food at a nice, cool temperature with just the right amount of humidity. There is very little you need to do after you put your food in a root cellar. Nature takes care of it all for you. Crops that store well in a root cellar include potatoes, onions, pumpkins, carrots, turnips, apples, cabbage, garlic, tomatoes. When picked before they ripen, they will ripen in the root cellar and be good to eat for a good month or two after harvesting. The key to keeping root crops fresh in storage is to harvest them and leave them as is. That means don't wash the dirt off. The soil helps preserve them and keep them cool. Don't store your produce in buckets or bags. Lay it all out flat. Prepping is a journey, not a race. Take your time and build up a food stockpile that will satisfy your family and give you peace of mind knowing you can put food on the table no matter what disaster comes your way. In conclusion, as we wrap up today's video, check out the links in the description of this video for ideas on what you may need in your prepping journey. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below and let us know if there are any topics that you would like discussed in the future. And be sure to subscribe to the channel to learn more about prepping and share the video with others that may have a passion for prepping or are curious about prepping in general. Thanks for watching the Prepper Almanac.